Have you ever stood somewhere, your hand already on the door, your heart beating so loudly it felt like everyone around you could hear it? Maybe it was outside a coffee shop, a classroom, a meeting, a family gathering, or even a friend's birthday. From the outside, you looked completely normal, but inside, your thoughts were running faster than your feet ever could. What if I say something embarrassing? What if someone notices I'm nervous? What if I can't breathe? What if I panic? And then, almost like a fire alarm going off inside your mind, one simple word appears. Run. Leave now. Go home. You'll feel better there. For a long time, I believed that voice was protecting me. I thought if I listened to it, I could escape the embarrassment, escape the discomfort, escape the fear. But I didn't realize something that would take me years to understand. Every time I ran away from anxiety, I accidentally taught it that there really was something dangerous waiting for me. And little by little, my world became smaller. Not all at once, just one canceled plan, one excuse, one maybe next time, one early goodbye at a time. I still remember one Saturday afternoon. A friend had invited me to a small coffee shop. Nothing fancy, just coffee, a quiet conversation, the kind of afternoon most people wouldn't think twice about. But for me, it felt like preparing for an exam I hadn't studied for. The entire drive there, my mind rehearsed every possible disaster. What if I don't know what to say? What if there's an awkward silence? What if everyone notices how anxious I am? By the time I arrived, I wasn't tired because anything had happened. I was tired from imagining everything that could happen. Isn't anxiety strange? Sometimes it exhausts us before life even begins. I stood outside the cafe. People walked in effortlessly. Some were laughing, some were talking, some barely looked up from their phones. Meanwhile, I stood frozen, with one hand on the door. My heart felt like it wanted to leave before I did. Eventually, I took a deep breath, opened the door, and walked inside. For about 30 seconds, everything seemed okay. I found my friend. We hugged. We sat down. She smiled and asked, "How have you been?" A completely ordinary question, but my anxious brain didn't hear it that way. It heard, "Now you have to say something interesting. Don't sound awkward. Don't pause too long. Don't let her notice you're nervous." As she talked, I wasn't really listening anymore. I was listening to my anxiety. It was louder than her voice. I could feel every heartbeat, every swallow, every tiny movement. I wondered if my hands looked shaky, if my smile looked fake, if I was talking too much or not enough. Then came the familiar whisper, "Leave. Tell her you suddenly don't feel well. Say you forgot something. Just go home." It sounded so convincing because anxiety almost always does. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And somehow, its whispers can sound like absolute truth. My body wanted to leave. Every part of me was searching for an escape. I looked toward the door. It wasn't far away, just a few steps. I could leave. I could make up an excuse. My friend would understand, or at least, I hoped she would. My heart was beating so fast that I wondered if she could hear it. Then something unexpected happened. Not outside me, inside me. A tiny thought appeared, so quiet I almost missed it. It didn't say, "Stay forever." It didn't say, "Be fearless." It simply asked, "Could you stay for one more minute?" 1 minute, 60 seconds. Somehow, that felt possible. Leaving felt automatic. Staying for one more minute felt like a choice. So I made a little agreement with myself. If you still want to leave after 1 minute, you can. That felt fair. No pressure, no impossible promise. Just 1 minute. I looked down at my cup of coffee. The warmth reached my hands. I noticed the smell, the quiet music playing in the background, the sound of someone laughing near the counter. For the first time since I walked in, I wasn't trapped inside my thought. I was noticing where I actually was. 1 minute passed. Then, another. My anxiety was still there, but something surprising wasn't. The disaster. No one pointed at me. No one laughed. No one whispered about how awkward I looked. No one even noticed the battle happening inside me. My friend kept talking about her week. She laughed about something that had happened at work. She asked me how my family was doing. The conversation wasn't perfect. I stumbled over a few words. There were little pauses. I lost my train of thought once. And do you know what happened? Nothing. She simply waited, smiled, and the conversation kept flowing. That moment stayed with me for a long time. Not because I suddenly felt confident, but because reality looked completely different from the story anxiety had written in my mind. For days, my imagination had created a movie where where everything went wrong. Reality was much quieter, much kinder, much more ordinary. And maybe that's one of anxiety's greatest tricks. It convinces us that discomfort and danger are the same thing, but they aren't. Sometimes we're only uncomfortable, not unsafe. There's an important difference, and our minds can learn it, one experience at a time. As I walked home that evening, I kept replaying what had happened. Not the anxiety, the ending, because something didn't make sense anymore. If anxiety had been right, then why hadn't everything fallen apart? Why hadn't people judged me? Why hadn't I embarrassed myself beyond repair? I realized something that evening. Every time I escaped too quickly, my brain never had the chance to discover that I was actually okay. Imagine a child who's convinced that every dog will bite. If they run away every single time they see a dog, their fear never gets the chance to learn something different. Their brain quietly says, "See, we escaped. That must have been dangerous." My anxious mind worked the same way. Every time I ran, it believed running had saved me. Not because that was true, but because it never stayed long enough to discover the truth. That little coffee shop became the first place where my brain gathered a new kind of evidence. Evidence that anxiety could be loud without being right. Evidence that a racing heart didn't always mean I was in danger. Evidence that I could feel uncomfortable and still be okay. That evening didn't erase my anxiety, but it planted a tiny seed, a new possibility. Maybe I don't always have to believe every fearful thought. After that day, I didn't suddenly become fearless. Actually, I still wanted to run, many times, but I stopped asking myself, can I do this perfectly? Instead, I started asking, can I stay one more minute? When I wanted to leave the grocery store because it felt crowded. One more minute. When I wanted to cancel plans because my thoughts were racing. One more minute. When I wanted to avoid making a phone call. One more minute. Sometimes that extra minute became 2. Sometimes it became 5. Sometimes I still went home, and that was okay too. Because I wasn't measuring success by whether anxiety disappeared. I was measuring success by whether I gave myself the chance to discover something new. Little by little, those tiny moments added up. The bookstore I used to avoid became somewhere I actually enjoyed visiting. The cafe that once felt terrifying became familiar. Conversations became a little easier, not because anxiety vanished, but because confidence quietly grew beside it. Looking back now, I realize courage rarely arrived in dramatic moments. It arrived in tiny decisions, 1 minute at a time. If you've been listening to this story and thinking, that sounds nice, but I don't think I could do it, I want you to know something. I understand. Because there was a time when even 1 extra minute felt impossible. When anxiety is loud, it doesn't feel like a feeling. It feels like an emergency. Your body wants relief right now. So, I'm not going to ask you to stay in every scary situation. I'm not going to tell you to ignore what you're feeling. Instead, I want to offer you something much smaller. The next time anxiety whispers, leave. Pause for just a moment. Take 1 slow breath. Then quietly ask yourself, can I stay for 1 more minute? Not forever. Not until you're completely calm. Just 1 more minute. And while that minute passes, look around. Notice 3 things you can see. Maybe it's the sunlight on the floor, a plant in the corner, someone smiling across the room. Then notice 2 things you can hear. The soft hum of a fan, a spoon gently stirring a cup, a bird outside the window. Finally, notice 1 thing you can feel. The warmth of your hands, your feet resting on the ground, the chair supporting your body. You're not trying to force the anxiety away. You're gently reminding your brain, I'm here. I'm safe enough to stay for 1 more minute. Sometimes that minute will be difficult. Sometimes it will surprise you. But every time you practice, you're teaching your nervous system something new. I can feel anxious, and I can still choose my next step. Maybe your 1 more minute won't happen in a coffee shop. Maybe it will happen somewhere much quieter. Maybe you'll stay on the phone instead of hanging up the moment you feel nervous. Maybe you'll stay at the dinner table a little longer instead of rushing to your room. Maybe you'll ask 1 question in a meeting instead of staying silent. Maybe you'll take one more bite of food even though anxiety is telling you to stop. Maybe you'll walk into the grocery store, buy one thing, and leave with a little more confidence than you walked in with. These moments may not seem important, but they are. Because confidence is rarely built in giant leaps. It's built in tiny promises you keep to yourself. Every time you stay one more minute, you collect a new memory. Not a perfect memory, a real one. A memory that says, I thought I couldn't do this, but I stayed. And one day, when anxiety tells you, you always run, you'll quietly answer. Not always, because you'll remember the evidence, the phone call, the meeting, the walk, the coffee shop, the little moments that slowly became proof that you're stronger than fear wanted you to believe. I used to think strength meant never feeling afraid. Now I think strength looks very different. Strength is walking into a room even when your heart is racing. Strength is admitting, I'm nervous, without believing that nervous means weak. Strength is staying long enough to discover that your fear doesn't get to write the ending. Some days you'll still leave early. Some days you'll cancel plans. Some days anxiety will feel heavier than usual. Please don't turn those days into proof that you've failed. Healing isn't measured by never struggling again. It's measured by how gently you come back to yourself. One difficult day doesn't erase 10 brave ones. One anxious moment doesn't erase your growth. You are not starting over every time fear returns. You're continuing a journey, and every time you choose kindness over criticism, curiosity over panic, one more minute over immediate escape, you're becoming someone who trusts herself a little more. If staying for one more minute feels like a big step right now, that's okay. Sometimes courage begins before we even leave the house. That's exactly why I created my free 3-minute anxiety reset. It's a short, gentle practice you can listen to before a phone call, before walking into a social event, before opening the front door, or before any moment where anxiety is telling you to run. Think of it as your first mini exposure. Not because 3 minutes magically fixes everything, but because it helps you slow down long enough to choose your next step instead of letting fear choose it for you. You'll find it in the link below. I hope it becomes one small reminder that calm is something you can practice, one breath at a time. Before we say goodbye, I want you to remember one thing. The goal isn't to stop feeling anxious. The goal is to stop believing that anxiety gets the final word. There will be days when your heart races. There will be moments when you want to leave, and that's okay. You're human. The next time that familiar voice whispers, run, maybe you'll smile gently and answer, not yet. I'll stay one more minute. Sometimes that 1 minute will change nothing. Sometimes it will change everything. Either way, you are showing your heart that it doesn't have to face fear alone anymore. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this story reminded you that courage can be quiet, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, where could you stay one more minute this week? Your answer might inspire someone else who's standing outside their own coffee shop, wondering if they're brave enough to walk in. And if you're trying to build a calmer mind, stronger confidence, and a kinder relationship with yourself, you're always welcome here. Take a gentle breath, be patient with your heart, and I'll see you in the next video.